Hi, I'm Rigger. This is You Are Right, and today let's talk some geography. Before that though, be sure to like the video if you like it, share it if you think others would like it, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and subscribe if you want to see more. Now, this is random, huh? This will probably be posted like 2 days before the finale for Volume 8, so who cares about the pools of creation right now? Is it going to be relevant? No, it's not. It isn't. But here's the thing. I've had this theory for a while now. Viewers of my channel would know I did a very big, extensive, and crazy theory about Jinn being human. Doing that theory and making that video, I had to watch Lost Fable over and over again. I was very sick of it by the end. I never want to watch it again. And I've gone back to it many times since then for various things, so you know. But nonetheless, in the course of making that video, I kind of accidentally also formed this theory, solving a question we've had since that episode aired. I had so much information and so many ideas swirling around my head making that somehow my brain just also sort of spat out this one too. So, since I have it, and we're still in RWBY season, barely, I might as well discover it. So, the pools of creation, opposite to the pools of destruction, resting place of the god of light, sacred, yada yada yada. So, looking around this location, what do we see? Well, it's mountainous, there's snowy peaks in the background, at least generally so, it's near mountains, and it's cold. The distance between the background and foreground isn't totally clear. Also, we know it's in a mountaintop crater. It's a hollowed out top of a mountain like a dormant volcano, but instead all this is here. It's lush and vibrant, but of course we can always chalk that up to the god of light living here, and magic and stuff. If he wanted to fill it with living talking balloons he could, so the foliage doesn't tell us much. But also we get this shot off to the side, this shot from another kingdom where we see the genesis of the beam when the god of darkness releases his Kill the World blast, and it shoots straight up from this mountain peak. So it's not just a mountain, it's this mountain. It isn't deep in the snowy mountains, they come after it, it's like the front of the mountain range. So this land next to it, where there's this kingdom, is sort of a low wetland, it's green, but with water running through, sort of expanse and a bit flatter. Okay, cool, so we got that down. So how do we place this? Well, the question is, why can't someone go and find it? The pools of darkness are still spitting out grim, but no one has climbed this mountain ever? Well, no. Actually, no one has climbed this mountain ever since, or will, or can, because this mountain doesn't exist anymore. You see, one thing that always didn't add up is why the god of darkness flew out through the moon. He just wanted to be a dick? He's the god of darkness, so that's totally the answer, right? No, not really. He's not really like that. Yeah, he's the god of darkness, but he's not just like an evil, malicious, horrible, at all turns character. It's why I like him so much. He's not your typical dark god at all, really. And his brother just vanished, so why didn't he? He couldn't? Of course he could, he's a god. He flew through the moon on purpose, and this was his purpose. To destroy the pool of creation, specifically. I mean, his pool, you touch it, and you die, and it spits out grim. The pool of creation? It gave Salem immortality. Who knows what else it could do if left unchecked? Especially if he knew people would evolve back. The god of light says it's a tragedy that befell the people at the hand of his brother. Humanity is no more, but in time they will grow to walk its face again. Do you think the god of darkness didn't know this? Is totally unaware? No, they work as a team. They said they'll both be back if you put the relics together. It's not just the god of light's thing off to the side, they're both aware of this. We have this presumption because he's the quote-unquote bad guy. But let's remove that assumption. If he knows all this is going down as well, then what's the next logical step? Remove the pool of creation so no one can take a swim and screw with its powers. No animal or person can just gain immortality as well, or any other crazy effect. That's pretty reasonable. Not to mention, he does want to win, right? So it removes his opposition, leaving only his pool that keeps creating destruction to actively try and keep everything dead. So, if they're both leaving, the god of light probably doesn't care much about his pool. It's okay, they're not even sure they're coming back, really. So, his brother isn't just saying, screw you to Salem, I'm gonna kill you with some rocks before I go. No. He's saying, I'm gonna wipe out this place of power that's opposite to my ideals. I'm just gonna wipe it off the map so people can't mess with it. And not to mention, it could, close this experiment off where you people don't get to, come together and summon us back and, judge you. No, my Grim will just kill you all. That'd be good. That fits my ideals. Now, I also want to say, the God of Light can undo this, I'm sure. In fact, if they do come back, I can see a grand, shot, a big, high-budget shot of them coming back, and he raises his arms, and the mountain and his pool rise back up out of its resting place to be restored. because that's pretty epic and godly and explains what happened to it. The pool was busted open, then where's its magic water? Well, I think it's presumptive to think of it sort of in that fashion. The dark pool, while damaged, is intact. This one was totally destroyed and its contents widely dispersed on a minute level. And without the God of Light here to actively affect it, or, shape it, I don't think it's unreasonable to say it's not doing much. But I do think it did do something. So, now we get to dust. We know the whole big thing where dust is supposedly made from the remains of people that were before. Their magic, in essence, is the dust people use today. Well, not only does this theory support that, but I think that's what the Pool of Life did. It got exploded. Its waters and effects were spread worldwide as a result, atmospherically. It was, dispersed on a minute level because it exploded. That epic level of destruction caused its powers and its essence to merge with the remains of the people all over the globe, and that became dust. That's what it created. That's essentially where the waters went. But now the big question. Even if I'm right about all of this, where is it? Point to it on the map and show me. Well, you know how everyone's pretty sure that the Grimpools are on the Dragon Continent? The one place without a kingdom and seems mostly uninhabited and impenetrable, and the Grimpools are on Remnant for sure, and nowhere looks like this, so it's probably the place no one goes. That makes a lot of sense, and I totally believe it. That's where I think it is too. It's on the continent that looks like its creator. Makes sense. Well, everyone then counters, wouldn't that make the Pool of Life on the Brothers continent? So it looks exactly like his dragon form. So, where, because people live here, is it? How didn't they find it? Well, like I said, it's destroyed, but yeah, that's exactly where it was. It was on Anima. In fact, where it is should be pretty obvious. The Pool of Creation was right here, where Lake Matsu is now. Right where that suspiciously giant hole in the continent is, where a minor scrap of land remains. Almost as if there was a giant impact right there that destroyed the land, raised the water levels, and wiped that feature off the planet. And before you ask, yeah, there's more to this than me pointing at the big hole and saying something used to be there. But that still counts. So, for reference, Lake Matsu is approximated to be at least 900 kilometers across, which is massive. But don't think the entire thing was a crater. In the real world, the Verdfort crater is 300 kilometers across, and it was, something like that. So, even if it was similar to that, and probably was worse than that, because this was probably more catastrophic given it was pieces of the shattered moon right in our orbit, landing right here. It's plausible it wrapped out the middle of this land. Looking at the shape, I think there's two real options, by the way. We saw from this side photo that the place next to it was sort of grassy and lowlands with water. That makes sense being near a mountain, and if it was on this sort of, already existing lake or giant sort of river that ran through the middle here. It's just now it ended up as one big giant lake and hole. It didn't punch out the whole shape, it took out the whole middle where there was already water here. But yes, like I said, I think that there's two options shape-wise. We can see the dragon. So the two plausible shapes I'm thinking is it's either a back leg curled up like this, which would account for that little piece of sort of floating land that's still there, like that little island. Or the other option is a front leg that's sort of curled back like this. Both are plausible. And obviously look, I can't draw, this is a mock-up I made quickly in Photoshop. It doesn't look probably exactly how it would look. It's just a general approximation. And yes, I've seen the original that Monty based the map of, but you can even see from that this is edited from that. It was just the inspiration. There was reshaping done to even the original, so, don't say it's not on the original that he had, so it's not exact. You can see this has only been adapted from that. It's not exactly the shape that he initially got on his napkin. But yeah, despite the back leg looking more natural, because it's me that drew it, if someone with better skills than me, formed this up, I actually think the front leg is way more likely. First off, it's a transition down from Snowy Mountains if it came down from the top here, which is just like what we see in the episodes. It's Snowy Mountains that leads into a grassy lowland with a big central mountain on it. And its transition down to those wetlands would have water running through it and rivers, which is exactly what would add up if there was something in the middle here, which is where this kingdom would be. Also, it's a reference. Again, I can't draw, so I can't show it exactly, but what we can see from this is the God of Darkness is a Western dragon, and the God of Light is an Eastern dragon. It makes sense. They're both beings of dragons, like they're both similar, but they're two opposing ideals. Western dragons are usually portrayed as more destructive and monsters, and Eastern dragons come in a wide variety, but are more, usually positive, seen as guardians, etc. Not all of them, but, a lot of them. And if you take a look at Eastern dragons as inspirations, I admit we don't see it in the God of Light's dragon form. He isn't actively like this, but it is a thing with Eastern dragons, and it's a lot of them are holding or have a Dragon Ball. It means different things and has been different things in different Eastern cultures, but it has a few things in common, and it's a very common feature. You've surely seen it on lots of portrayals of Eastern dragons. A lot of people call it a pearl, but it's not really a pearl per se. In Chinese dragons, from what I've seen, it usually represents the sun, a symbol of power and life. I'm pretty sure in Korea, it's a heavenly orb that grants the dragons its power. And obviously, I'm not an expert, there are varieties to this, and, things change over time. But my point is that for the most part, it's a symbol of power and of creation, and possibly life, especially when it's talking about, the sun. That's very much that kind of symbol, and, look at the color scheme and the theme of the God of Light. So, if there were a center of life and power on Remnant, a, center of life where that ideal and creation is spawned from, I feel very strongly it would make sense to be in a bit of land shaped like a ball clutched in the Eastern Dragon's claw. Yes, it's an assumption, but it fits so thematically. Fun fact, also, in my Jin is Human theory, I also deduced it's likely that Ozma, the original Ozma, was from this kingdom, from his armor and a few other things. And that's right beside where the God of Light, lives. And that also seemed very thematically fitting. His original home is gone now because of the Act of the Gods, and he wound up serving the God of Light, who he, basically lived next to. There's a whole thing there. And this idea actually backs up what I said in that video, where I also deduced there's a really good chance Ozma knew this woman, who may be Jin. Because there's an even better chance of that if they're from the same continent, given his hero status that would support the idea. And if you're following along, the deductions are that this woman occupies at least the general area that became Mistral on Anima, with the stations up here in this colder area, which we also see in the episode. So, if you put all that together, and you have any idea that theory could even be close to correct, it also all makes sense. So just another little tie-in there. But lastly, you might say, okay, anything else? There's a hole there, and it's sort of it's on the right dragon. Is that anything else? Well, yeah, actually, one more. We've seen Lake Matsu in the show once, when Weiss traveled through it. Now, what was there when we saw it? There was some Grimm, yeah, okay. Oh yeah, and all these floating islands. Almost like there were giant pieces of destroyed land and remaining rubble because of a cataclysmic event that hit right here. These chunks of land left over in the lake. Chunks held up by dust. Dust that was supposedly fallen from the remains of people. Just like the large contingent of people that were here, that were destroyed right before this place was destroyed. Just like the others, all these people became dust, and the entire mountain and landmass was destroyed by pieces of the moon striking the earth. What's left is this enormous hole in the middle of a continent with leftover pieces of rubble now floating because of the large deposits of dust on the bottom of them. Large deposits of dust, which were people, on the big chunks of land that are now loose because the landmass is gone. So it all adds up here, It's almost like a huge amount of people died right there. All in all, I think this adds up to be a very solid idea, making Lake Matsu the most likely spot on all of Remnant for the Pool of Creation to have been. And that especially ties into what I said earlier, because if the gods came back, it would look really epic for the God of Light to return, raise his hands, and for the landmass, led by the mountain itself, just to rise back up, out of the Great Lake, back to its position of glory. The great body of water erupting and, swirling around it, like Atlantis returning to the surface. Pretty epic and godly. Anyway, that's all for now. Until next time, my name is Rigger. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I hope I did alright.